Okay, I think this will be our last video. We're just going to walk through two quick examples. One is finding angles in trapezoids, and that is example A right here. Okay, if you notice, we can look at this and know that it's a trapezoid because we have two bases that are parallel. A lot of times we would see that sitting upright like this one, but it doesn't matter. Those are still the two bases that are parallel no matter which way it's turned. We also can tell that this trapezoid is isosceles because its two legs are congruent. Remember, that has some pretty important implications for us. So let's walk through that. When we have an isosceles trapezoid, you need to remember that the angles that run along the base or the bases are congruent. So C is congruent to D and B would be congruent to A. So those two would be congruent and those two would be congruent. The other thing you need to remember is that we're dealing with parallel lines crossed by a transversal. So we have two parallel lines crossed by a transversal, and we have same side interior angles that are supplementary. So they want us to find the measure of angle A. Well, if we know the measure of angle C, then we know the measure of angle D. Those are the congruent angles running along the base. And then we also know that we have these supplementary angles running along this transversal. They're same side interior angles. So 100 plus 80 would equal the 180 supplementary. And so our measure of angle A is 80. So that was pretty simple. Now let's move on to one that deals with the trapezoid midsegment theorem. Remember our formula for solving for the, I'm trying to figure out how to hold this better. Remember our formula for figuring out the midsegment of a trapezoid is the midsegment equals half of the two bases added together, the two parallel bases. So in this case, our bases are 13.5 and 8. So we know those are the bases because they're the two parallel sides. This would be a leg and this would be a leg. All right, so looking at this again, all we're doing is we're adding our two bases and we're finding the, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on. We're averaging them. We're finding the average base, which is halfway in between the two. So we average something by adding up the two numbers and dividing it by 2, or adding up however many numbers and dividing it by however many we added. But in this case, we're only adding the two bases and dividing by 2. That's why we have the 1/2. So it's base plus base times 1/2, or base plus base divided by 2, either way you want to say it. So we have EF, our midsegment, equals 1/2 of 13.5 plus 8. We add the 13.5 and 8, and then we divide it by 2, and the answer is 10.75. All right, I think that is the last video that I'm going to do for you. I just wanted to run through some extra review for you for the test. I hope these are helpful. Remember, you really need to understand all the characteristics in this chapter. That will be super helpful. All right, see you Thursday. Let me know if you have any questions.